Good day, everyone. My name is Geraldine Safanya Sindiartha, and joining me today are my friends Sapasti Raja Alexander and Srija Ravi Kumar. We are from Group 15 of LF1, and we will be discussing the situation for cleaning workers in perfect properties supply chain. Now, I'll be discussing on how perfect properties is connected to the working conditions of cleaning staff in the office buildings. While the company doesn't directly employ these workers, its relationship with Clear and Clean means it has responsibility to ensure ethical labor practices. According to the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, companies can be held accountable for human rights abuses committed by their suppliers, even if they're not directly involved. Perfect Properties outsources its cleaning services to Clear and Clean, creating a direct link between the company and the labor conditions of workers. However, Perfect Properties does not monitor or audit Clear and Clean's operation, assuming that being an Australian contractor means they automatically comply with fair labor laws. This lack of oversight allows unethical practices to go unchecked. Additionally, Perfect Properties pressure Clear and Clean by negotiating extremely low service prices, creating financial stress. To meet these costs, Clear and Clean hires subcontractors, some of whom engage in exploitative practices. Workers often lack formal contracts, are paid under the table, and face underpayment, long hours, and job insecurity. The cleaning services industry is a high-risk sector for labor exploitation. Yet Perfect Properties has failed to assess and address these risks. Recently, the company discovered that Clear and Clean is subcontracting work to firms with unclear labor practices, further deepening this issue. So, how does Perfect Properties contribute to these issues? First, it has a long-standing relationship with Clear and Clean, but lacks proper oversight. Without audits or compliance checks, unethical practices can continue. Second, the company doesn't verify whether subcontractors follow ethical labor practices, leaving the door open to exploitation. Third, there's a failure to assess high-risk sectors like cleaning services. Lastly, Perfect Properties has a weak commitment to human rights responsibilities without educate policies or monitoring. Thank you.
Modern slavery indicators are evident in the cleaning services within perfect poverty supply chain. Clear and Clean's workforce consists of migrant workers, many of whom experience exploitation. Key risks include precarious employment conditions, wage reductions, excessive working hours, and lack of legal protections. Firstly, several workers lack formal employment contracts, leaving them vulnerable to unfair treatment and job insecurity. Maya's experience highlights this, as she was promised a contract that never materialized. Without a contract, workers have no legal resources to ensure fair wages and working conditions. Secondly, there is an evidence of debt bondage. Joe's wages were deducted for accommodation provided by the employer, restricting his financial freedom. This practice aligns with the key modern slavery indicator, where workers remain trapped in exploitative conditions due to financial dependency. Additionally, Ali's account reveals forced labor conditions. He works excessive hours without proper pay or benefits such as sick leave or holiday pay, fearing termination if he raises concern. This fear of retaliation prevents workers from speaking up, reinforcing their exploitation. Another critical issue is subcontracting. Some workers do not even know their employee's identity, suggesting a lack of transparency in clear and clean operations. The use of unknown subcontractor raises concern about underpayment, illegal detection, and further labor right violations. The key finding indicate that perfect property is at a risk of contributing to human rights abuse through its business relationship. Under the UN guiding principles on business and human rights, companies have a responsibility to assess and address these risks. Immediate actions are needed to strengthen due diligence, enforce fair employment standards, and ensure a worker protection. To address the potential modern slavery risk identified in perfect property supply chain, a robust due diligence framework must be implemented. The first step is risk assessment, which involves identifying vulnerabilities in supply chain. Given the clear and clean reliance on subcontract with unclear employment conditions, a thorough assessment of the labor practices is essential. This process should examine wage structures, working conditions, and legal compliance. Following this, impact assessment must be conducted to evaluate how current business practices affect workers. The testimonies of workers like Maria, Jose, and Ellie highlight serious issues such as wage theft, forced labor conditions, and job insecurity. Conducting systematic impact assessment ensures that the potential human rights violations are identified and mitigated. Worker monitoring is also another critical as ongoing audits and compliance checks that help prevent labor exploitation. This involves not only reviewing formal contracts but also engaging with the workers to understand their real working conditions, ensuring that they are not subjected to coherence, withheld wages, or excessive deductions. Another essential step is stakeholder engagement, which means collaborating with affected workers, unions, NGOs, and human rights experts. Engaging with these stakeholders will provide valuable insights into industry specific risks and help develop effective interventions to safeguard workers' rights. If human rights are violated and are discovered, remediation measures must be enforced. A key mechanism is establishing grievance mechanisms, allowing workers to report abuse without the fear of retaliation. Transparent and accessible compliance channels empower workers and enable timely intervention. Additionally, implementing corrective actions is crucial. This may involve requiring suppliers to improve labor conditions, provide fair wages, and comply with ethical employment practices. Continuous monitoring ensures these changes are upheld. Finally, if violations persist despite the intervention, supplier termination must be considered. With this last resort, companies must be prepared to cut ties with suppliers who fail to uphold ethical labor standards, ensuring they do not contribute to human rights abuse. By integrating these due diligence and remediation strategies, perfect, pro- perfect, perfect properties can align its business practices with ethical labor standards and prevent modern slavery in its supply chain.
Perfect Properties is facing a critical challenge regarding modern slavery risks in their supply chain, especially with the cleaning services provided by Clear and Clean. So, in this section, I'll outline the next steps that Perfect Properties should take to ensure that modern slavery does not occur again. And this draws on both theoretical frameworks as well as practical solutions. First, a comprehensive supply chain audit must go beyond Clear and Clean to uncover hidden forced labor risks. Even the case revealed that some workers were unsure who they worked for and indicating potential exploitation within subcontracting chains. So, by auditing second tier suppliers, Perfect Properties can ensure fair treatment and ethical labor practices across its operations. And next one is the company must implement a strong governance frameworks, and it must also establish a legally binding modern slavery policy with strict enforcement mechanisms. So this will set a clear expectations for ethical labor practices across all suppliers. So workers like Maria, who were promised a contract but never received one, and Joes, who had excessive wage deductions for accommodation. So these cases would be better protected under such a policy, and it would prevent the suppliers from exploiting workers through unclear employment terms. And next is it must also introduce mandatory suppliers due diligence. The case revealed that Clear and Clean not only employs workers directly but also subcontracts to unknown firms. So without proper oversight, these workers may face even worse conditions such as those experienced by Ali. So to overcome this, suppliers must disclose employment conditions, and subcontracting agreements will ensure accountability throughout the supply chain. And the next one is a worker driven accountability mechanism is also very crucial. Many workers in this case lacked a clear way to report mistreatment. So, a secure and independent grievance system would empower workers to raise concerns like Ali, who feared losing his job if he spoke up. So, ensuring this system will make it easier to workers to understand their rights and seek help. Next is capacity building and training should also be implemented. So the HR managers struggled to communicate with workers due to language barriers. So by providing a training on modern slavery risks, fair wages, workers' rights for both employers and suppliers of perfect properties can prevent exploitation and create a culture of ethical labor practices. So finally, transparency is another key pillar. The company must publicly report on modern slavery risks, supplier complaints, corrective actions taken. So, this transparency will build trust within stakeholders, including investors like Superannuation Fund, and enforce perfect properties commitment to ethical business practices. So, by implementing these measures, Perfect Properties will not only protect workers from exploitation but also strengthen its reputation and meet investor expectations and align with global human rights standards. And it can also ensure that modern slavery does not occur again. To conclude this, based on the evidence and analysis presented, it is clear that modern slavery risk exists in perfect property supply chain, particularly within the cleaning services provided by Clear and Clean and their subcontractors. So the evidence includes forced labor, wage theft and debt bondage, and also the absence of formal labor contracts. These are highlighted by the workers like Ali, Maria and Jose. And these practices align with the indicators of modern slavery outlined in the Australian Modern Slavery Act and also as well as in the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. So, perfect properties, cost driven contracts, and lack of oversight have enabled these risks to persist. So, the company's reliance on subcontracting without due diligence has also obscured the labor conditions and creating a high risk environment for exploitation. And this not only harms workers but also exposes perfect properties and its investors, like including superannuation funds, and leads to reputational and financial risks. So, to address these risks, perfect properties must take immediate and comprehensive actions, and this includes implementing ethical procurement policies and conducting enhanced due diligence and also establishing worker driven grievance mechanism. So, in addition to this, transparency and stakeholder collaboration are also critical to ensuring accountability across the supply chain. So, in response to the superannuation's question, according to the evidence, I would say that yes, there are modern slavery risks in the perfect property supply chain, but however, by adapting the solutions outlined, such as like mandatory supplier due diligence and worker engagement and also public reporting, perfect properties can mitigate these risks and uphold human rights and also align with its commitment to sustainability as well as ethical business practices. Thank you.